Interestingly, one of the key theses for us is that urbanization is translating into the proliferation of gated community as a preferred place of living. One interesting insight was the security guard is supposed to do the job of the security guard. But morning 5 a.m. till 8 a.m., they've got incessant, hundreds of calls from house owners, residents saying, "मेरी maid नहीं आई है, मेरा cook नहीं आया है, check the register." Or send somebody, we need somebody immediately. And those hundreds of calls for us was an opportunity, because we thought if we just solve this, that all homeowners should know when their house help has checked in. While India is known in the world as a software exporters, but we as Indians unfortunately don't want to pay as much as the rest of the world for the same software. Let's say today your house help or cook, would you like to order?
Is not coming.
Would you like to order something in one of the food delivery apps? And here's a X% discount on top of it. Now that flash incentive could be a reason, very contextual, for you to take that up, right? Any building can be tall when their foundations are strong, right? And for a technology company, right, AWS in a way is that foundation for us. Township is the extent of gated community. So when you have such high concentration, high disposable homes, each of them become a mini economy in itself.
हर घर कुछ कहता है. Indeed, if you have ever attended a raucous society meeting, there are a lot of opinions shared quite vocally about how things should be run. In this context, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas could use a little technological help. Enter a prop tech that hit the jackpot by reformatting gated communities as a theater of commerce while providing security and convenience. Hello and welcome to Crafting Bharat. This is your reference point for making sense of what makes India's startup ecosystem unique. I'm your host Gautam Srinivasan, and today we have with us a founder whose brand has changed Kahani Ghar Ghar Ki by becoming the operating system of community living for over 25,000 societies across 27 cities in India, and is going in new directions to call home. Please welcome Abhishek Kumar, co-founder and CEO of Mygate. Abhishek, great to have you on Crafting Bharat.
Thank you so much, Gautam. It's lovely to be here. Looking forward to our conversation.
We're looking forward as well. Let's get it started with the housewarming stories of Mygate and how they convinced everyone from security guards to society members to get on board their solution on our first segment titled Ignite. All right, Abhishek. First of all, congratulations. FY25 looks set to be profitable. Let me give a certain context. It's been quite a journey, I guess, for the past 9 years. It was at Goldman Sachs, where you became good friends with Vijay Arisetti, and the seed of Mygate gets sown. But कहानी में बहुत सारी चीजें बाकी है. Vijay leaves Goldman, calls you up, and you join him and Shreyans in starting Mygate during 2016. That's the context of your start. Now, everyone wants to create a disruptive product, but you three went ahead and did it. You identified the security guard as the weakest point and the strongest point, in a sense that you resolve their problems. There is going to be a network effects of positivity. And guess what you did? You shadowed them. You have to track your customers. So what confirmed the thesis for you that you could be creating a killer app, considering a lot of trends, like whether it's digital payments, quick commerce, they were yet to pick up? What that does is it limits the use cases of what you have to offer to the society. So A, how did you arrive at this killer app? And of course, how did the propositions and the initial customer conversation go, especially societies, because societies are not receptive to change, especially if they have to pay for it?
Yeah, Gautam, thanks for the question. It takes my memory back to the early 2016, or in that year when we were out figuring out, from the idea to taking it to the market. But as you said, what gave us confidence was truly when that idea was being shared among our friends and batchmates, everybody could relate to it, right? Interestingly, one of the key theses for us is that urbanization is translating into the proliferation of gated community as a preferred place of living. And most of our friends were staying in gated communities, so they could relate to the fact that visitors are
That these
coming.
are the issues. But
Yeah.
was there a thought ki why has somebody not done it yet?
Look, I think we sometimes love or we are okay to be with a problem statement as long as they are not too much of a hassle.
Hmm.
But there are small lagging problems we love to stay with, right?
Hmm.
Until somebody comes and tells
Manageable pain.
manageable pain, until somebody comes and says, now this is how you figure it out.
Hmm.
So the first conviction was when they heard this is what our idea is, they said, can I invest?
Hmm.
So that gave us confidence. Second, when the product was sort of ready to take to the market and we were meeting the first few resident welfare association members, they loved it
Hmm.
because their pain point is definitely security,
Hmm.
and they saw this being addressed.
Oh.
And second, they said, can we also invest? So I think these were some early great signs when we felt that really we are onto something.
It's a great sign when the RWS themselves are open to it, and I believe some of your investors themselves saw the solution
Exactly.
work firsthand. And what better a pitch can you give them than the solution being demonstrated? Any interesting stories shadowing security guards? Any insight?
Oh, yeah. I mean, first we felt and realized that the problem statement that we had in our mind was much bigger. So opportunity was much bigger than what we initially thought. One interesting insight was the security guard is supposed to do the job of the security guard. But morning 5 a.m. till 8 a.m., they got incessant, hundreds of calls from house owners, residents saying, मेरी maid नहीं आई है, मेरा cook नहीं आया है, check the register, or send somebody, we need somebody immediately. And those hundreds of calls for us was a opportunity because we thought if we just solve this, that all homeowners should know when their house help has checked in. That means we have solved a big nagging daily problem that people are okay to live with. But the moment you give this solution, they just loved it.
And the beauty of it is, as you think bigger, the ecosystem responds with solution. Now you have apps which are offering, the house help service in 15 minutes. But again, making sure it's verified, tracking and tracing. The more those integrations come in, it can all be in a sort of a sandbox safe approach. Let me take that question ahead, because from the first day itself, you had a sort of an ecosystem building approach to solving a lot of the problems, and you have an open API framework kind of a thing which is working. So this roadmap for product growth, if you can take us through that and how it evolved from solving problem statements of, say, the gate and the security to becoming a one-stop operating system for housing societies, and you have applications from B2B to B2C. So how did this product roadmap evolve?
So Gautam, from day one, I think it also reflects the mindset of the founders themselves. We were very clear on what we want to do and what we do not want to do it ourselves, right? So that's the first thing. So we're very focused around initially solving the problem of security at the gate, and had a very partnership approach to all other things which was not core to us. So for example, over time, the open API architecture, we are now integrated with prepaid meter solutions, which are prevalent in North India, water meter integration, access control, boom barrier, even most of the known e-commerce players are integrated with us. And the thought process was community. We wanted to be one-stop solution for community, but community doesn't want multiple apps that the residents would have to take. And that way we became that one-stop app which was offering the core solutions that we are good at, but you also bought other solutions as part of our ecosystem approach.
And that brings the benefit in monetization, because if you have a single window to manage a lot of things, it also brings into equation, you can be an arbiter of content and an arbiter of commerce. So in this context, let me ask you about your monetization strategy, because you've spanned ad-free, then ads plus SaaS only. What did that monetization journey teach you about the Indian consumer? And your losses shrank significantly in FY24 by 82%.
Yeah.
How did you manage to achieve that? First, your monetization journey, and B, how did you manage to shrink your losses so significantly?
Yeah, as you said, I think the monetization journey, before monetization, there were two early steps, right? The first 5 years was about taking Mygate in as many gated communities as possible, as fast as possible. So there was distribution. Along with that, we were solving engagements. We wanted residents to come for all things community on our app. And the third phase was monetization. I think there's a lot of learning along the way. First thing that we realized is while India is known in the world as a software exporters and sort of experts in software, but we as Indians unfortunately don't want to pay as much as the rest of the world for the same software. So the initial realization was that it's very hard, very tough to build a SaaS only product and be a large organization or large company, especially focused in India. So that was very clear to us from day one, and especially on top of that, you add the persona of a housing community. They're all volunteers, right? Who are neighbors, like staying next door, who are looking at this RWA work as a non-profit enterprise. So they're not. Their job is to reduce cost, not to pay for it. So very clearly, we realize that while we have a world-class product, SaaS will be a very small portion of the overall revenue. But interestingly, our thesis was built on that if you have the top 20-25 million households, which many research or papers call as India One, using your application on a daily basis, multiple monetization opportunities over time will unfold, but you got to be patient and you have to stay in the game. And ads was one thing that opened up. So that really, led to the stage where we are today, where we would be profitable in FY25. So that's the first part of the question. Second part is around losses being shrink, right? As we in the last 4 years shifted the focus to revenue, operating efficiency, looking at leverages for having more revenue per, we don't like to call employee, but more revenue per team member in Mygate. I think automatically the losses started to shrunk. I think that's truly what happened.
I'm actually looking forward to a time where managed society providers are being become part of that ecosystem, because as you mentioned, RWAs are all voluntary, and if you see the global market, it's usually these big brands who manage society. So the idea of the society meeting is we'll decide one and that person takes it, and they then would say go for a fully paid product, because they'll say that it's not worth the hassle to go for partially available ecosystems. Let's go for the full one. We'll end up making money in the bargain. Well, we've got lots of talking points to cover. Let's fast track this conversation to stacks and scalability from a Mygate perspective on our next segment titled Launch. All right, in an interview, you mentioned that there were 3 phases for Mygate's growth. The first was in early 2017, that involved, say, zeroing in on the PMF with 20 communities to start.
Correct.
Late 2019 to 2021 involved exponentially scaling up to 25,000 communities, but revenue was near zero. Post 2022 saw a steady and disciplined approach to monetization and execution. So, what were the changes which were going on in the back end, during these phases that you went through, especially from a tech stack perspective, where you were looking at adding a lot of services, adding a lot of integrations, but you were at the same time going through these phases, eventually leading up to a focus on execution and monetization. Take us through your tech stack journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I talk about the tech stack, the relevant parts are today we are, let's say, validating 4 million visitors on a daily basis. And that's also has spikes, right? So morning is a rush hour, then evenings are rush hour. That's first part. Second, anytime there is some downtime, it practically means, Gautam, that a visitor is waiting at the gate and my gate is down, and then that creates a lot of sort of friction and frustration with the resident. So we get lots. So we cannot afford to go down anytime in the 24/7 operations. Third, as you said, we were looking to launch multiple services and API architecture that allows us to scale and be flexible. And fourth, we are building an ad network engine ourselves. And I'm happy to say that our tech stack with the foundation of AWS was something that was important for us. So the first thing that we did was the ability for the servers to flexibly, sort of be elastic in the approach. So there is a ECS,
scale up and scale down
as required. So the ECS model is something we adopted from an AWS perspective. Then we looked at DynamoDB as another offering of what we looked at from a tech stack perspective, which allowed the visitor validation is a very high. It has to be a very high resilience and high reliability thing for us. So that also was very key. And third, elastic cache is another sort of approach we took from a tech stack perspective.
Fantastic. As you expand your operations, you need the best in business to support
Yes.
you in your expansion. All right. Let me take a slight detour in this conversation because the Indian customer is also growing more data privacy and security consideration, kind of, looking at that as a talking point or for something to consider. Now, you were already GDPR compliant. What about the DPDP Act, which has
Yeah.
come into board? How are you being compliant?
Yeah. So actually, Gautam, this was very critical and part of our value system around ensuring that we are protecting our residents' data. So from a value system perspective, with my Goldman background and Vijay's army background, right? So protecting data is a critical part of our overall ethos was from day one. To that extent, right? So when GDPR, which is the European standards, gold standard, is considered for data privacy, something we looked at very deeply back in 2019 and made ourselves ready for that, right? So things like as simple as things like right to be forgotten. So if a resident is moving out of a Mygate community, the resident should have a right to forget, which means all relevant
What's
data.
the period for that?
So the moment you're moving out, you can trigger as a resident that my data should be removed,
All
right?
right.
But we allow that, but it is the RW that takes the call, right? For example, right? Second, if any resident data is being looked at by a society admin, the resident can see in their own app who has looked at
They
my
have a
data.
log.
Yes, they have a log. Third is obviously, and most important is anything you do should be consent based, right? So these things was imbibed in our value system, in our processes from day one. And because we made ourselves GDPR ready, I would not say compliant because in India that doesn't apply. We automatically, in many ways, were ready for the DP Act as well. So we didn't have to do anything different per se when that act came into 2023.
All right, let's segue to Gen AI. Everyone has to talk about AI and Gen AI. So it behooves us to talk about what you are doing to leverage Gen AI because Mygate uses AI to unlock efficiency in development and, of course, to enhance customer support. Abhishek, how are you leveraging Gen AI in improving your proposition as a living experience tech company?
Yeah, Gautam, I think the two aspects that you mentioned is something that's work going on, but a lot to be done there. So first, ensuring that we leverage the full extent of Gen AI to ensure that residents can learn about all aspects of Mygate on their own. Second is community knowledge to harness that. Our biggest competitor in a way, Gautam, is community WhatsApp group, where a lot of insights happen, a lot of knowledge is shared about what's the best doctor nearby, what's the best, sort of puncture shop maybe. We need to harness that, and these tools can help in that. But to your specific question about what can happen in future, I'll give you an example. Let's say today your house help or cook has not checked inside the community, and we would know that your cook has not come in. Can I use some of these tools to be able to make your life easier by prompting you to say, hey, would you like
This
to
person
order
is not coming. Would you
would
like
you like to
someone
order
to come?
something in one of the food delivery apps, and here's a X% discount on top of it. Now that flash incentive could be a reason, very contextual, for you to take that up, right? Second example is maybe there's a party going on, and the resident has used our party invite feature to host a bunch of friends. Can we trigger that? Hey, would you like to maybe order pizza, right? At again, some incentive can be given along
And
with
plus
that.
the brands tie in with you as well. So maybe
Exactly.
there's a certain discount which can be offered there as well.
Exactly. So I'm just giving you some of these examples as an illustration of what can the future entail and how some of these tools can be leveraged.
And it's fantastic that you're focusing on context to leverage AI to drive
Yes.
outcomes because that will have a more meaningful rollover effect, where the customer realizes, you know what, this is helping me live my life in a
Yes.
far more easier manner. Well,
Yes.
it's time to get a sense of how AWS enables Mygate to open new doors in business on our mini segment called Boost. Abhishek, you talked about AWS. I want you to expand on some of those talking points because Mygate has been an AWS customer since its inception. The entire
Yes.
app is hosted on AWS. You've also had ties with Amazon Logistics for
Yeah.
pre approval of Amazon delivery executives, leading, of course, to faster delivery. So, give us a glimpse of how AWS has helped you build business resilience and improved your value proposition, especially with examples. That would be
Yeah.
fantastic.
So look, I think any building can be tall when their foundations are strong, right? And for a technology company, right, AWS in a way is that foundation for us, right? Right from the very beginning till in the 9-year journey, we have been partners, and AWS has played a critical role in starting Mygate to where we are today. So let me now speak about specific examples. We started with a gate and security application uh, to where today we are doing 4 million visit validations, right? We also have multiple business, like the entire advertising framework and tech stack was built on AWS, right? The we have launched smart devices, and smart lock is one of the first product that launched the market.
Hmm?
That entire stack is built on AWS. So over time, as we scaled, right, we soon realized, and I mentioned it before, that our business is 24/7, high reliability, high resilience, never go down, obviously unless planned. And that's where multiple tools and solutions of AWS has been instrumental. I spoke about few of them. So for example, the ECS model allows us to scale up and scale down servers, and there are times during the 24/7, the 24 hours, where our visits are peaking in the morning and the
You need
evening.
proper load balancing to
So
make
that's
sure
first,
everything is
right?
smooth.
Second, DynamoDB allows us to ensure more reliability of visit validation. Now
Hmm.
imagine a delivery executive waiting at the gate, and you're not getting your notification, right, to
खाना
approve
ठंडा
or
हो गया है.
deny, right? Or you're receiving that notification after the delivery executives have delivered your product.
Hmm.
That's poor experience, right? That's
Hmm.
where we have recently, last in the 3 years, used the DynamoDB solution to allow that high instant reliability of visitor validation. And third is just the elastic cache solutions of AWS. So practically, I think we are married in a way, right? Not with, I mean, not to you with
A
AWS.
long and stable marriage between
Right.
the startup and of course the foundational platform.
So all the new businesses are now in a way built on the foundation of AWS. So really lovely to have that association.
Fantastic. And as you said, it's the foundation which matters.
Yeah.
You've got a strong foundation, your business can grow, and well, so does your home and a happy marriage. All right, let's head into our final segment to assess the broader impact of Mygate on the India growth story. This segment is titled Orbit. All right, Abhishek. Mygate has enabled 2 lakh plus security guards to work and upskill themselves. Lakhs of maids, cooks, nannies, drivers. They find better job opportunities on the platform as well. Plus, small businesses around gated communities, there will be a network effect for them as well. So, in terms of people impact, what's the next milestone that you are looking forward to as you also expand into, say, newer tier 2, tier 3 areas?
Yeah, Gautam, one thing we realized very early is that gated community, and you use the phrase yourself, is a theater of commerce, right? And then another interesting observation we are seeing is that gated communities are becoming large and large into townships. So what used to be earlier a large gated community of 200 homes, even 20,000 homes in a large 30, 40 acre or maybe 100-acre township is the extent of gated community. So when you have such high concentration, high disposable homes, each of them become a mini economy in itself, right? So hyper local, high growth mini economy, and almost like the city sort of gravitates, or the economy develops around it. What we have observed so far is there's a lot we can do in the future, especially around the blue collar workforce, right? As you already mentioned, that the entire ecosystem of people who are working in that community gets onboarded in Mygate app. we have recently launched an app called Sarthi app that enables and imagine that if that app is in the hands of all the house help, maid, cook, nanny, driver, where they can themselves see what is a job opening in that area, and they can either bid for it or
It's like the gig economy
it's
for
a gig
them.
economy, which I think today in the country, Mygate is very well positioned to do that. It's just something that we might do it in future in the next few years. So that's one area we are super excited about. Second area, many of these gated communities also have commerce inside the gated community. So there'll be a salon, there'll be a small grocery store, there could be a restaurant, there could be home entrepreneurs who've taken places from the builder to have a boutique shop and so on and so forth. Now, in some ways, in future, imagine all of these are also available on MyGate. In any case, we see these trends happening where home entrepreneurs, tuition instructor, dance teacher, they're all posting their job classes on MyGate app. But we haven't given a structured way of doing
So like
that.
a marketplace, is that, am I
It could be
imagining it
it could
right?
be a marketplace. It could be yes, right. We are not going to be providing those services. So we want to operate as a platform level, but enable these home entrepreneurs and small businesses to be able to access the demand side.
All right, you're learning some lessons from Amazon itself on doing that. All right, before we wrap things up, basis what I've heard so far and the opportunities that are opening up, plus your legacy, I sense Mygate operates at the intersection of security and convenience. Now, extending the same thought process to inside on, this is when I was reading what Mygate is doing. It's the first thought that I popped up. So, because you operate on the RWA model, I was like, what happens if you approach the individual? And there comes smart locks, because you're
Yeah.
you're extending that consumption model from a society based framework
Yeah.
to an individual based framework. So in a sense, would you call it hedging your bets? Because then there's the community based solution and then there is the individual based solution. What would you say?
Yeah, I don't think hedging our bets is the thought process with which we launched, or we will launch products in future as well for the individual homes. It is not so much as hedging our bets. I think for a long time, as long as gated community exists, which I don't think is going to go away in India, our core will be around gated community. So will we always be very focused on providing world class solutions and platform as a one single operating system for gated community. I think of it as an extension of instead of being just a community operating system. And that's where a couple of years back we said, what's our new positioning? We want to be living experience tech company where we want to touch the daily nagging or solve the daily nagging problems of urban living in a way, right? But why do it only from a gated community context? Can we also look at inside the homes as well? And once we solve that, certainly the solutions can also go to independent houses which are not part of gated community.
But do you think this is a tougher proposition versus, say, because in societies they'll understand your value proposition? It's again something we see in the enterprise space, right? In the enterprise space, the consumer is more vocal in their feedback, they are more receptive. Whereas if it's a D2C framework, then the things become slightly more complicated.
100% you're right. It is a much tougher problem because when you enter into D2C, which is direct to consumer, you're suddenly opening up the entire base to a lot more competition, a lot more things you have to offer to them. So that's why I've said the core of gated community is not going to go away ever, right? So that will stay the core, and we are treading this path very cautiously and carefully. First, we have launched Smart Lock. We have seen good reception, and based on that, we'll look at what future products will come. But definitely something we're very excited about as well.
And that's the mark of a great startup, because they never shy away from challenges. Well, that's a wrap on our chat with a startup that is transforming gated societies for the better of those who live and work there. Abhishek, thank you so much for joining us here on Crafting Bharat. Pleasure to speak with you.
Pleasure speaking to you, Gautam, and thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you. And well, thank you to our viewers for tuning in. Till next time, this is your host, Gautam Srinivasan, signing off.